always kind of wondered, why did he keep saying it? And I'm wondering if it doesn't fit in. It's this every time Shem talks to him, or even Yitzchak talks to him, he says, "Here I am," or "I am here," yeah, and it's this sense of being present, knowing, I don't know if it's knowing, but being connected or something to where he's maybe I'm guessing, in essence, doing some of what maybe you're suggesting, which is to say, I'm not listening to any voices, I'm not on any downward spiral, I'm right here where I know I'm supposed to be, and you know, going through the 9th or 10th, if not both, of his 10 challenges, which I think maybe gives me some, maybe insight on that. I don't know what you think.
Interesting. Greg's on a roll tonight.
He's our next scholar in residence. He doesn't know yet.
Be careful what you wish for, Greg.
Yeah, decades from now.
I would say certainly presence is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. We're talking about, are you present to your own wisdom? Are you present to your own better resources? And really all of the signs of a low state of mind that we talked about, a high state of mind, really, if I were to sum it up, really all we're talking about is, do I have perspective or do I not? Okay? There are times when my life is like this. Okay? And that's a good amount of time for me. A good amount of my life. It's like this, right? That comes in a feeling. It comes in a feeling. It's not rocket science. And then there are times when I have what I like to refer to as the 10,000-foot view, right? And there's obviously levels in between. This is a directional thing, not an absolute thing. It's a directional thing. Nobody's going to be perfectly present through most of their life. We're talking about moving in a direction, okay? And that's really what we're talking about here, right? Am I, because remember, nobody ever sees reality totally, completely, but we are at times making up a far better reality than other times when we're not. And the question is, how do I know? The question is, who's talking? And that's what I'm suggesting is there's a far more reliable way to understand this creative process, which is through the feeling. If you start analyzing and going through the data, there is absolutely no way in the world that you're going to figure it out. Now the problem with this, the challenge with this is, it takes some emunah. It takes some emunah. What is emunah?
Faith.
Faith. What is faith?
Belief in God. Yeah. Acknowledgement of Hashem's power.
Emunah is actually a little more generic. It can be applied to God, but what's that?
Belief when you don't see it in front of you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Emunah is, it doesn't look that way, it doesn't sound that way, it doesn't smell that way, it doesn't taste that way, it doesn't feel that way, but it is that way. Right? Right? That's what God was trying to engender in us, right? What was the entire 40 years in the desert? It was a lesson in Emunah, right? Why? Because we were going to go out of the midbar into a world where it doesn't look that way, it doesn't sound that way, or at least we as we went into Gulut, as we went more into a more hidden presence of God, lack of presence of God, right? We were going to go into a world where it doesn't look that way, it doesn't smell that way, it doesn't sound that way, and yet, right, because we wandered for 40 years in the deserts, and no, it's not because the men refused to ask for directions, because we wandered through the desert for 40 years, we had such a powerful experience of God's presence that even when it doesn't, we live in a world that we can't see Him, we know. We know. Emunah is what I know in spite of all the evidence. There might be evidence supporting it. I'm not saying there's always not, but there might be. But there may not be. So, this is where it comes back to the very simple truth that I started this whole series on, which is a person has to begin to recognize that what they create is just what they create. It doesn't matter how real it feels. If you don't see the fundamental truth that you create your reality every moment, if you don't really begin to see that, I mean see it in your life with your own insight, not me talking about it, but that you watch how life happens and you start to see, you know something? This isn't reality, this is me. I go up, I go down, I go sideways, right? this is, if you don't see that, then you're never going to be able to, not dive in to the problem. It's going to look like a problem. You have to have the emunah to recognize this is where the emunah comes. Were you going to say something?
I was just thinking about it's easy to recognize negative emotions
Mm-hmm.
and step away from them and give yourself space
Mm-hmm.
and then go back and think. That when your positive emotions are leading you astray, and the Yetzer Hara can definitely play on those, then you lose your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're talking about a feeling of love, of compassion, that may lead you to make a decision that skews your decision making to say, oh, I'm doing this because I love my child so much, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I'll give you an example of what, because I can't articulate it
Go ahead,
clearly. From a teacher's perspective, if a parent doesn't say to a child, set boundaries for a child, you can cripple a child.
Absolutely.
But they feel that as a parent, they're motivated out of love. But there's a certain amount of allowing, we can make the wrong choice for the right reason.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so that's what my question is how do you then discern when you're feeling motivated with a positive, what you would perceive as a positive emotion, to know that you need to step back and think about clarity, to know where that's coming from.
So once again, I want to make it clear, we're not talking about positive and negative emotions, we're talking about perspective. And there's a big difference between those. For example,
Perspective or
perspective. I'm talking, in other words, when I talk about focusing on the feeling, what I'm not saying is, you have to always be feeling good. I'll give you an example. We mourn when we lose somebody. Now, am I suggesting that when a person's in mourning that they're necessarily in a low state of mind? Not necessarily. Mourning is not necessarily a low state thing at all. It can be you can be in a very high state of mind. I've never personally gone through it, but I know people who have told me that the process of shiva, process of losing somebody, can be a very high consciousness experience. Are you very sad? Absolutely. Tremendously sad. But you're not, that's not what I would call a low state of mind. I have a letter from somebody, Randy introduced me to. This man's wife was a cancer survivor, and one of the women in her group wrote a letter to her children. Basically, she was dying. And she was a 29-year-old woman who passed away from cancer, and she writes this letter that is just unbelievable. And he sent me the letter. She calls these her little tulips. She writes this letter about how sad she is that she's not going to watch them grow up, and she won't be with them to tuck them in at night and all these things. But she writes about gratitude. She talks about gratitude, and it's profound. Now, this is a person who's experiencing a lot of sadness, no doubt about it. But I would not call that a low state of mind. I call it a very high state of mind. So we're not talking about the rationale. That's a rationale, right? A person can have a rationale behind making choices like, I can't say no to my child because I'm going to hurt their feelings. And once again, I'm not here to give you a foolproof way to go through life. That's not my point here. I'm giving you a general principle.
No, you clarified that it wasn't about negative or positive emotions. It was about the state of mind you're in when you're dealing with those.
Yeah. So I think a parent who is struggling with an issue like that, there's a sensitivity to this, and this is important to realize. There's definitely a sensitivity. We don't spend a lot of time looking at the feeling. We tend to, because we live our life in this very outside-in way, which is the outside causes the inside. So we go right to the outside because we believe until I fix the outside, the inside's not going to feel good. Until I solve that problem,